Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Welcome back, Catholic pilgrims. Today, St. Augustine is going to talk a lot about his mama, St. Monica. I know that many of you mothers out there have a deep devotion to her, and I think you're going to enjoy hearing more about their relationship. We will be reading from Book 3, Chapter 11, on page 68. But you sent down your help from above, and rescued my soul from the depths of this darkness, because my mother, your faithful servant, wept to you for me, shedding more tears for my spiritual death than other mothers shed for the bodily death of a son. For in her faith and in the spirit which she had from you, she looked on me as dead. You heard her, and did not despise the tears which streamed down and watered the earth in every place where she bowed her head in prayer. You heard her, for how else can I explain the dream with which you consoled her, so that she agreed to live with me and eat at the same table in our home. Lately she had refused to do this, because she loathed and shunned the blasphemy of my false beliefs. She dreamed that she was standing on a wooden rule, and coming towards her in a halo of splendor, she saw a young man who smiled at her in joy, although she herself was sad and quite consumed with grief. He asked her the reason for her sorrow and her daily tears, not because he did not know, but because he had something to tell her, for this is what happens in visions. When she replied that her tears were for the soul I had lost, he told her to take heart, for, if she looked carefully, she would see that where she was, there also was I. And when she looked, she saw me standing beside her on the same rule. Where could this dream have come from, unless it was that you listened to the prayer of her heart? For your goodness is almighty. You take good care of each of us as if you had no others in your care, and you look after all as you look after each. And surely it was for the same reason that, when she told me of the dream and I tried to interpret it as a message that she need not despair of being one day such as I was then, she said at once and without hesitation, "No, he did not say where he is, you are, but where you are, he is." I have often said before, and to the best of my memory, I now declare to you, Lord, that I was much moved by this answer, which you gave me through my mother. She was not disturbed by my interpretation of her dream, plausible though it was, but quickly saw the true meaning, which I had not seen until she spoke. I was more deeply moved by this than by the dream itself, in which the joy for which this devout woman had still so long to wait was foretold so long before to comfort her in the time of her distress. For nearly 9 years were yet to come, during which I wallowed deep in the mire and the darkness of delusion. Often I tried to lift myself, only to plunge the deeper. Yet all the time this chaste, devout, and prudent woman, a widow such as is close to your heart, never ceased to pray at all hours and to offer you the tears she shed for me. The dream had given new spirit to her hope, but she gave no rest to her sighs and her tears. Her prayers reached your presence, and yet you still left me to twist and turn in the dark. Before this season began, I did a giveaway for the book on my social media pages, and to enter the giveaway, followers had to tell me one thing that they knew about St. Augustine. And overwhelmingly, the majority of the responses had something to do with St. Augustine's mother, St. Monica. Mostly women know about St. Augustine because they know that his mother prayed for years and years for him to come to God and become Catholic. I know a lot of moms that ask for St. Monica's prayers for their wayward children. And while we know that she prayed, I think it's very important to see the struggle that went on between these two. I think it's important to see how his attitude caused her so much grief and how she cried so many tears for so many years. I think it's also important to understand that St. Augustine was pretty hard hearted about Christianity, but St. Monica just kept at it. My own mother prayed desperately for me too. I didn't know about it until many years later, but during my teenage years and very early 20s, my choice in guys was not the best, sometimes downright awful. And from the ages of 17 to 20, I was dating a guy and we became engaged while I was at K-State. And while he was nice to me, we just weren't a good fit. And my mom knew this. My dad did too. And my mom could see that if I got married to him, I was going to be miserable. But my mother also knows me, and she knew that if she tried to stop the relationship, I would have just dug in deeper. And so she prayed. She prayed that I would find a good man at K-State that was better suited to me. And funny enough, she told me years later, she was praying that I would meet one of K-State's football players, specifically Mark Semino. She hoped that we would meet because he was the football player. I was in the marching band. She hoped somehow we would make a connection. And the reason why she picked him is because he was one of our linebackers and he was often in interviews on TV. And so she would see him on TV. And she thought he seemed like a good guy for me. I never once saw him on campus, so we never actually met. But I did end up meeting my Dustin, who is my perfect fit. And I know that it was my mom's prayers that paved the way for our meeting. So no matter what, never give up praying for your kids, even if they seem disinterested or even angry with you. Just take all your anguish and heartache to Christ and surrender your children to Him. That is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. Meet me back here tomorrow for our last reading from Book 3. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.